I am the Hunger Striker. I am making this video so I can inform everyone of the injustices of the Canadian television networks, CTV and Global TV. Both channels are guilty of not allowing Canadians to audition and apply for reality and game shows that have international versions. Examples include Deal or No Deal, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, A Canada's Got Talent show, and Canadian Idol. My first example is with Global TV. How come every other country, including the United States, England, Australia, Brazil, Italy, and even India, all have their own version of Deal or No Deal, but not English-speaking Canada? It's not fair! Even though there is a French-Canadian version, one, I don't even know if they would let people outside of Quebec audition. Two, I do not feel the need to have to learn the French language just to be on the show, just like how people in every other country are only required to know one language. Although Global TV had an English-Canadian version of the show, it only lasted for 5 episodes. After those 5 episodes, Global TV never even bothered allowing Canadians to get another chance at that show. They instead kept sharing the American version. Worst of all, Canadians cannot even audition for the American versions of those shows. Therefore, Canadians who wanted to audition for Deal or No Deal Canada again were left out in the dark. The same story applies for Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? The show has several versions internationally. A French-Canadian version exists, yet it is not really open to those who live outside of Quebec. Global TV shows only 5 episodes of a Canadian version of that show and only allows Canadians to get one shot at applying for it. They keep airing the American version of the show instead, and Canadians can't audition for the American version. This violates my right to audition for those shows. And how come there isn't a Canada's Got Talent show? There's America's Got Talent, Britain's Got Talent, Australia's Got Talent, South Africa's Got Talent. Why not a Canada's Got Talent? Canadians can't even audition for America's Got Talent. What's taking CTV so long to make a Canada's Got Talent show when the rest of the world has their own version of the show already? And I decided to save the biggest shocker for last. Canadian Idol is not returning in 2010. How do I know? I called CTV and asked. CTV lied to us. A Toronto Star article stated that CTV said, and I quote, that it has every expectation of bringing the crooner competition back again the following season, being 2010. And now CTV is saying that it is cancelled for 2010, even though they said it was coming back. There was even an article on the Canadian Idol website mentioning that Canadian Idol was resting for 2009. It did not say it was cancelled for good. CTV also said that it was not the only Idol show that took a rest, and they euphemistically listed other countries that took a rest for their Idol shows, and those Idol shows that they listed actually returned. How come those Idol shows took a rest and came back, and not Canadian Idol? Worst of all, CTV claimed that the current economic climate was the reason for the cancellation of the show. If the United States caused the global recession, then how come American Idol and their Idol Gives Back show both came back for 2010 despite the recession, and not Canadian Idol? It doesn't make any freaking sense! As you can see, this is tyranny, cruelty, injustice, and a violation of my human rights to be able to audition and apply for these shows. These are my demands, and I want at least one of them to be done in order to resolve my conflict of not being able to audition for those reality and game shows. My demands are: 1. For the shows to come back to Canada with the American version still on Canadian channels. 2. For the shows to come back to Canada and replace the American versions of those shows. 3. For the American networks to allow Canadians to audition for those shows, or for the Canadian networks to convince the American networks to allow Canadians to audition for those shows. 4. For the Canadian or American government to grant me U.S. citizenship so I can audition for those shows. 5. For the Canadian government or the Australian embassy to support me financially to move out of the country. Yes, I want to move out of this country where the media is ran by TV tyrants, preferably to Australia. Starting on February 10th, 2010, I will go on a hunger strike at until at least one of my demands are met. I will only be consuming liquids just so I can survive longer. I cannot stand this injustice anymore against Canadians who are not able to audition for reality and game shows like those. It is time for a change. Also, I want to mention, I'm going to be blogging this daily, or attempt to. If at any time I do not put a blog up in 4 days without announcing that I'm ending my hunger strike, I'm either in the hospital or I am dead. Lastly, I strongly encourage everyone to sign my petitions protesting against these injustices. One petition is to allow Canadians to audition for reality and game shows that have international versions and are not accessible to English-speaking Canadians. The second petition is for the return of Canadian Idol in 2010. The links to the petitions are in the description of the video. Please sign both of them. And I would like to thank everyone for taking their time to watch this video.